No, okay, now it is. Sound is coming now? Yeah. Yes? Yeah. Oh, sorry, I didn't have the sound. Prabhu Nityananda, Shadvaita Gadadhar Shivasari. So, Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda. You see me? Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhaktivinoda. No? We're trying to teach a 56-year-old man how to get on Facebook and watch this. It's not easy. Right? How do you do it? You just go on my page?
You go on your page and there on my link, you're in a live.
You'll see it. You'll see it, right?
Yeah, you just click it.
He doesn't see it?
He sees it. You're there. Actually, it is because of the internet connection.
Yeah, anyway.
It's buffering.
Oh, it's slow. Your connection is slow. Okay. So, what do you want to talk about tonight? We can, we've been doing a workshop here on, can you close that door? I'm living in a nursery school. What do you call it? Kindergarten. Nursery school? Kindergarten? You have, what do you have here? Nursery school? Kindergarten?
Yeah, nursery school.
Yeah, this house is like a nursery school. We're living in a nursery school for the next few days. Okay. So now you know how to get it in the future. Yeah. So you can turn it off now, since you have it live. So every Saturday and Sunday this time, if you want to come. So we were giving a workshop on commitment. Well, we're giving a workshop on vows. Then I was explaining there's a certain mentality that goes into making a vow, but that's the same mentality that goes into any kind of commitment. So one of the things that I find a lot of people don't realize is that we can be more committed than we think we can, but we never test it, because so often we think, I can't do this. And we say, I can't do it because I've never done it. So we don't try to do it. So we are resolved to the idea that I can't do it. So we don't realize that we have more power to overcome past habits and conditioning than we think. So I was giving the example that sometimes a devotee might say, I'm chanting japa and I'm not concentrating. I can't concentrate. That's common. I can't concentrate. So I'll rephrase what they mean, I can't concentrate. I'll state it another way. I am allowing my mind to wander. That's the meaning of I can't concentrate. You understand? Or I'll put it another way. My mind is wandering and I feel helpless in controlling it, so I don't try. That's another way of saying I can't control my mind. It's not that you can't control it, you're just letting it control you. That's all. Right? So, one of the main reasons that we do that, or we allow that to happen, is because we don't realize when it's happening, we could decide to focus our attention. We could decide to get control of our attention. We could say, okay, now I'm going to commit and I'm going to focus. I'm going to make that commitment right now because my mind's distracted. And most people don't do that. They just say, well, I couldn't control my mind this morning. It was disturbed from something that happened yesterday. And then I gave into that, and I didn't try to control it. So I allowed my attention to be drawn into something that was disturbing me, rather than make a decision not to be drawn into it. You understand? Yeah, so it's like automatic. The mind is going in a certain direction, and I follow the direction, and then I think there's nothing I can do because yesterday we had a big problem and now it's disturbing me, so therefore I'm forced to think about it. People who are more committed, in this example, people who are more committed to japa don't allow that to happen. They understand that because their mind is disturbed, there's a tendency to focus on what disturbs them. And understanding that, they make a commitment not to allow themselves to focus on that. Because they know if they don't commit, they will focus on it. It's guaranteed. They'll focus on it. Right? So that's a very important point to understand. Even if you don't believe it because you don't have experience of it, still it's true. You might say, well, I've never been able to do that. When my mind goes this way, then I go with it. It says, come, let's go, and I go. And I've never had the experience where I can just pull away so easily, that I can make a decision and pull away. And if you haven't had the experience, still, this point of this class is to explain and convince you that you can do it. So that's the very interesting thing. I find this so interesting. The word vrata means vow, right? What were you saying in Hindi? Brat?
Brat.
So in Sanskrit it's brata, with a V, vrata. And you might say brat. So it means vow, but in Sanskrit every word has various meanings, right? I'm going to make the exposure lower, maybe, if I can. I guess I can't. It's not possible. So one of the meanings of vrata is choice. Isn't that interesting? One of the meanings of vrata is choice. So to make a vow is to make a choice. There's so many things I could do, but I'm making a choice to do one thing. So, commitment means vrata. It means to make a choice. Now, there's many things we can choose. We can choose how we react to something. Somebody gets upset with you. You could make a vrata, a choice, that when people get upset with me, I won't get upset with them. I could make I could make a decision, a choice, that I'm not going to react in a negative way to negative people. So if anything negative comes to me, I make a vow to be positive. I could make that choice. Even if I'm negative, even if I always get angry, I could make a choice not to get angry. I could. Right? Couldn't I? Couldn't you? You could. Couldn't you? I mean, think about it. There's nothing in the universe that's saying you have to react in one particular way. Because if you have to act in one particular way, it means you have no choice. And if you don't have any choice, you're not alive. You're dead. The only thing that doesn't have a choice is someone who's dead. Correct?
Yes.
Satyam? Yeah. That's what it means. What it means to be alive is you have choice. And that's how we create karma, through our choices. And therefore, karma would be unjust if we didn't have choices. If we were all forced to act, we couldn't be held responsible. Like Prabhupada says, animals are not held karmically responsible. Like, yeah, you don't punish dogs because they're running after, the male dog's running after the female dog, and you don't take him to court for rape, because he has no choice. It's instinctive. That's his instinct, and he can't control it. That's just how he is. Human being does that, you take them to court, because you know they have choice. Right? So, that's why animals don't create karma. They only get rid of karma. And they're just living out the karma. But French poodles have better karma than street dogs. Did you know that? You have French poodles in India? It's a kind of dog that gets pampered. It's like a luxury dog, a hybrid dog. Yeah. They have better karma. Anyway, so Krishna has given us choice. With the choice that Krishna has given us, we ended up in the material world. That's why we're here. We weren't forced to come here. We weren't put on a plank and then, whoosh, like you might see in a movie, get on the plank and then they push you into the ocean. We made a choice to come here. We didn't have to come here. We weren't forced to come. We came because we wanted to. How do we get out of the material world? We have to make a choice. Now that we're here, we have to make a choice to get out. Now, the nice thing is that Krishna has given us the freedom to choose. Because with that freedom of choice, you can get out. And if Krishna doesn't give you the freedom of choice, then you're going to have to stay here forever. Right? So that's why we say Krishna's greatest gift is your freedom to choose. The very freedom he gave you that brought you here and caused you so much trouble was actually his greatest gift, because it's the way you'll get out of here if you use it. So you can't say, Krishna, why did you give me choice? And Krishna will say, well, if I don't give you choice, you're not getting out of here. You're stuck here forever. So you should be happy you have choice. Now, the fact that you misuse your choice, that's not my problem, that's your problem. I gave you choice so you could love me, and then you chose not to love me. So that was a mistake. But if I don't give you choice, then how can you choose to love me? So now you have to make that choice, right? So the point of me saying all this is that, well, I just lost all the chat. The point of me saying all this, am I still online? I lost my chat. I lost it. The point of me saying all this, I don't see the chat. Huh. I'm still online. I lost everybody on chat. I don't know why. So if you say anything, I can't see it. Maybe you'll all come back. Whoops, sorry. I'm still online, but I don't have the chat. Chat has disappeared. Oh, I got the chat back. Happy days. Okay. Well, I can put a filter on. Wow. I'm going to put a filter on. Look at that. Wow. I look effulgent now. I look like a Mayavadi sannyasi. So, the reason I'm talking about this is it's so you understand choice is something you always have, even when you think you don't have it. You always have it. Now, you may not want to use it. You may feel like it's too difficult, or I'm not used to thinking in a certain way. I'm not used to acting in a certain way. So I just, don't feel like using my choice. But when you know that you have it, it's so empowering because you realize that anywhere, in any situation, you can always choose a different way of thinking, you can choose a different way of responding, you can choose a different attitude. Now, when we talk about vrata, we usually think of big things, like marriage vows, initiation vows, or maybe Ekadasi vow, I won't eat, or I'll chant 64 rounds. But as I was saying earlier, you can make other kinds of choices, or commit, or make other kinds of vows, where you make a choice that you'll never chant bad rounds. You make a choice that you'll never act unkindly to anyone, no matter how they act towards you. You can make that choice. And you might think, can you actually have that much control? Well, the point is, when you realize that you have the power to make choices, you start to realize you have much more control than you think. Because look at it this way. Let's say you easily get upset when people don't do things the way you want them to do it. Then I could tell you, I could say to you, if that's the case, then you're also making a choice. That you're making the choice to not get angry. You don't think you're making a choice. You're just getting angry, right? And I'm saying, you've made a choice to not prevent yourself from becoming angry. By allowing yourself to become angry all the time, when things don't go your way, you've made a choice to not be angry. Does that make sense? Make sense? Yeah. Because if I don't choose, that's also a choice. Like they say, sometimes it's sinful to do something, and sometimes it's sinful not to do something. Like if you don't prevent something bad from happening, that's sinful. It's called the sin of omission. The sin of commission is you do something bad, you kill somebody. But the sin of omission is someone else is about to kill somebody and you don't do anything.
That's that.
Sin of omission, yeah. Yeah. So, to not choose is also a choice. To not prevent someone from killing someone is also a murder.
Yeah.
So you can't say, I didn't do anything. No, you did something, you didn't prevent it. So to not choose is to not do something that you could have done. You understand? Does that make sense? Yeah. So, last night we were talking about the power of commitment, and what commitment is. It's a choice to do something and not allow yourself to do anything other than that one thing. Just like, for example, if I commit to chant 16 rounds, then I cannot allow myself not to chant 16 rounds. I've committed myself to do one thing. Every day I'll chant 16 rounds. And that means if I'm fully committed, there's no possibility of doing anything else. I can't do anything else because I've committed to this. So I rule out all other possibilities. That's what a commitment is. I want to do this, and I want to make sure I'm not distracted by this or that, so I make a commitment only to do this. And if I'm fully committed, how do I know? I don't think about this, I don't think about that anymore. I only think about this. And if I'm fully committed, then it's impossible to do this or that. Because I've ruled it out. In my mind, in my consciousness, I've ruled out doing this. It's an impossibility, it'll never happen. Like let's say, you've committed to be somewhere tomorrow at 11 o'clock. You've committed to be we're doing a workshop tomorrow. 11 o'clock, you're committed to be in the temple, 100%. So no matter what comes up, you're going to be there. It doesn't matter, because that's where your mind is focused. That's what commitment means. And that's why we commit, and that's the power of it. So when you actually commit, you get a power that you didn't think you had. That's the whole point. And many of us don't realize that commitment gives us a power to do things that we didn't think we could do. So understanding that, you realize that you have more choices than you thought. Like, I could choose to focus on my japa. I'm completely out of focus. There's so many things going on in my life. I could stop myself and say, now I commit myself to focus and put everything else aside. And I could bring my consciousness to that point where I could actually bring my mind around, if I commit enough, to then focus on my japa. Almost in a second. Isn't that amazing? That we all have the power to do that. But very few of us utilize that power because we don't realize we have the power, because we feel more like we're controlled more than in control. And in fact, this idea that we're in control seems to be kind of atheistic. So no, Krishna's in control, I'm not in control. So sometimes we think, I'm not in control, which means I'm being controlled by the modes of nature. Rajagun, Tamagun, Sattvagun, I'm being controlled. That seems to be the spiritual way of thinking. God's in control, and I'm controlled. But that's only half the truth. I don't control the sun and the moon. I don't control the wind and fire and air. I don't control life. But Krishna did give me the ability to control myself, if I choose to use it. So to say I'm not the controller doesn't mean you don't have the power to make choices. You don't have the power to pull your attention from one place to another. That would be foolish. But many of us are not used to controlling ourselves to a high degree, so therefore we think we don't have those choices because we're not used to using them. Like, for example, if you're not good at something and you think you can't be good at it, but you have a good teacher, that teacher may help you overcome your mental block. And if the teacher helps you overcome your mental block, you can get good at it. But as long as you have the block, you can't. So in many ways, we have mental blocks about things. Well, I could never do this, I could never do that. Isn't it? You understand mental block? It's a way of thinking. And I could not do this.
Mental obstruction.
Yeah, the mental obstruction. Yeah. You have a mental obstruction. Yes. Hare Krishna. Oh, my recording stopped. Well, we got 5 minutes of recording. Well, anyway, we're going to have to, hopefully this gets saved and then we can utilize this recording. So, yeah. So now there's so many things we can commit to. If we decide to commit to them, we could commit. And then you find when you commit, like we were discussing yesterday, all right, I don't read Prabhupada's books enough, so I will commit to a time every day and I'll read. Now, what in the world is stopping you? You say, well, actually, every day from 8 to 9, I could set that time aside. I really don't have to do anything at that time. I could read. So what is stopping you? Externally, nothing. I have nothing to do at that time. I could sit down and read. So then the only thing that's stopping you is your commitment to doing it. And if you commit to doing it, that means at that time you won't do anything else. So you have the power to do that. You can make that decision. And if you make the decision deeply, then you do it every day. It becomes automatic. Because commitment empowers you. So the commitment, when you make it, ends up putting you in a chair with a book automatically. That's what you do because you're committed to it. And as we said, when you're committed, you don't think about doing anything else. That's all you do. So many of us don't realize that. Now you might say, yeah, I'd like to do that, but I'm too this or that to discipline myself. But the point is, even if you're too undisciplined to do this or that, the point of the commitment is that it creates the discipline. So it's better than saying I'm not disciplined enough. It's better to say I'm not committed enough. Because if you're committed, you could do it. Why don't you read Prabhupada's books every day? Because I'm not committed to doing it. That's why. If I were committed, if I made the commitment deeply enough, then I would do it. And if I make the commitment and I don't do it, it means that I'm not yet fully committed. I haven't made the full commitment. Right? You agree? Yeah. So that's the power of commitment. So what I'd like you to do is just test it. Test it in a variety of situations. Like Bhaktivinoda Thakur said, we should make a vow never to criticize devotees. You want to test it out? Make a vow not to criticize. There's so many things you can commit to that aren't maybe obvious. They're not like big vows. For the rest of my life, I will be celibate. I think this is a huge vow.
Like Bhishma.
Like Bhishma, yeah, that's a huge vow. You know? Or even to get married. I'll be with this one woman my whole life. That's also a huge vow. But we can make other vows that I'll never mistreat anybody. I'll never be resentful. I will never allow myself to chant without some focus and some dedication. I will never allow myself to serve Krishna for any motive other than to please him. Like that, you could make vows like that. You could make decisions. So when we use the word vow in this sense, we just mean choice. I can make a choice, a decision to do something. And if you look at your life, you'll probably see that there's certain decisions you made that changed your life. You made it at one point, and that decision stayed in place for the rest of your life. Right? That's the power of a decision. And you made the decision of your own volition. You decided to make it. And once you made it, then there were consequences, either good or bad. But you made it, and that's the power of a decision. It puts you on a certain track. And let's say I'm not doing well in a certain area of my life, then we would say probably you haven't made a decision to do well. You're just kind of going along with how things go. Like sometimes, let's say, do you want to do this? And you might say, well, let's see how it goes. Which means if it happens, then we'll do it. And if it doesn't happen, we won't do it. You know, so sometimes our life is like that. Instead of making a decision to do it, we say, well, let's just see how it goes. When we get there, we'll figure it out. Or if we feel like it, or something like that. So that might be okay in some situations, especially when you're on vacation and you're not doing anything. But in terms of things that you want to do, then if you have that mentality, it doesn't work. And so that you might want to reflect, if I'm not doing something and I'm telling myself I would like to do this, it probably means I just haven't committed to it. And there may be many reasons why we haven't committed to it, that we might feel it's going to be uncomfortable, difficult, I might fail, whatever the reason is. So you may want to look at some of the reasons that you're not committing. But the main point is, if it's really something you want, if it's something important to you, then you owe it to yourself to commit to it, because you're probably not going to get it if you don't commit to it. And if you want it, why wouldn't you commit to it? Doesn't make any sense, does it? If you actually want it. I want to make this happen, so therefore I'm committed to make it happen. There's a nice saying, the only people who fail are the ones who give up. So the committed people don't fail. Oh, I tried, it didn't work, therefore I'm not going to try again. No, a committed person doesn't think that way. I tried and I failed, but this is something I want, so I'm going to keep doing it. That's what commitment means. Yeah, you might fail. That doesn't mean just because you're committed, you're going to win the first time. But what it does mean is that you'll keep trying.
Eventually, you will win.
Yeah, or at least you'll get closer to winning than you are if you don't try. That's for sure. And even if you fail, if you're committed, you'll realize, okay, I failed, but I want to achieve this, so I'm committed to it. Let's make it work.
Maybe more dedication is required.
Yeah. Now, I was thinking today something that I think is really valuable. I want to throw out to you. When you commit to something, let's say you're committed to your business, you're committed to your family, you're committed to your temple on a certain level, you know. So you consider, I have to be committed to my business to make it good. I have to be committed to my wife to be a good husband, committed to my son and daughter to be a good father, committed to be a good grandfather. So you have a certain standard you're committed to 16 rounds, something like that. What if you tried to commit to be an excellent father, husband, like better than good, and committed to like 20 rounds instead of 16? So now you're committing to something higher than what's necessary. So sometimes we think, well, it's hard for me to chant 16 or hard to be a good husband or whatever. Then I would say, then don't try for 16, try for 20, try for 25. Commit to something higher. Commit to something greater, because if you don't reach it, at least you'll be at 16. And 16 will seem easier. At least you'll still be a good husband. Being good will be easy. Being excellent may be difficult, but being good will be easy when you try for excellent. So a lot of times we make the mistake is that we make a goal and we just shoot for that goal so that we may miss it. You shoot, this is my vow 16, but I'm going to try to do more every day. So 16 becomes like, of course, that's like the loser. 16 is when I'm having a losing day. A good husband means that's just acceptable, but excellent is what I'm striving for. So good is automatically included in excellent. 16 is automatically included in 25. So that's another way of thinking, of pushing yourself beyond what you think you may be able to do. And by pushing and trying, in American baseball, when someone's getting up to bat to warm up, they have a bat that's like twice as heavy as the bat they're going to use. So this is how they warm up, with this very heavy bat. So when they go to bat, the bat that they pick up, it feels really light because they've been practicing with a heavy bat. So it's something like that. You're shooting for something that's more difficult, so then your goal becomes easier. Anyway, it's something to think about. And the reason I say this is because generally we don't try for something super, super excellent, difficult. We try for something we think we can do. Whereas if you try for something that's a little more difficult, you have to try a little more. And so more comes out of you. And then you do better than you thought you could. And as I was saying, and even if you fail a little bit, your failing is that mark where you made your vow, not way below it. So it's an interesting thought. You know, if I say, you come to me and you say, I'm having a problem, I can only chant 8 rounds, and I say, great, I have a plan, try to chant 25. And you'll say, that doesn't make sense. And I'll say, what would you have to do to chant 25? And you say, well, I'd have to get up earlier, I'd have to do this and that and that. And I say, well, if you did all that, would you chant 16? You'd probably say, yeah, 16 would be easy. Okay, so therefore I said, try to chant 25. And automatically, you'll have to think in a way that 16 will be easy. Your marriage is really bad. It's not going well. And I say, what would you have to do to have the best marriage on the planet? And you'd say, I could never have the best marriage on the planet. I said, that's okay. But what would you have to do to have the best marriage? I said, well, I'd have to do this, 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 and this. I go, okay, so try to have the best marriage. At least you'll have a good one. If you try for the best one and fail, you'll have a good one. So relatively, it makes it easier. What seemed difficult now becomes easier. Right? So, and you can apply that to so many things in your life. Even things you're already doing. Say, I'm vowing to do this and I'm already doing it. Okay, but what would that vow look like if you did it on an excellent level, not just a good level? And you start to think, well, if I was actually living on the level of excellence with this vow I'm following, then I would be doing this and this, and I wouldn't be doing this and that. So that brings you to a higher level. Okay, I'm already chanting 16 rounds. Okay, that's good. Now, if you were vowed to chant 16 excellent rounds, what would it look like? And you'll see, it probably would look different than the rounds you're chanting now. So by looking at what you're doing and bringing it to a higher level of excellence, it gets you thinking of things that I could do that I'm not doing. So even when what you're committed to, you can do better if you think how to do it better. Does that make sense? So it makes it easier. So, does anyone have any questions? Because we're going to run over to the temple now. We're going to give a workshop. So I could stay another few minutes if you have anything. Or are you all stunned, saying, I just can't believe what I heard. And you're sitting there just staring at your computer or your phone, stunned, one of the symptoms of bhava, and you have no questions. Maybe you're stunned thinking, I can't do that. I give up. Don't ever give up. The reason you shouldn't give up is that even though Krishna consciousness is difficult, there's nothing else that's worth striving for, right? But, so even though it's difficult, but there's nothing else worth undergoing austerity for. That's the whole point. You can give it up and then you can do something else and undergo austerity for that, but it's not worth it. Because in the end, it doesn't last. After you're gone, it's gone also. So that's the idea. Okay, so thank you all for attending, and I'm going to run off to the temple, and we'll have fun tonight. And we'll see you tomorrow night. No. What time does the program end tomorrow? 6? 6. The program ends at 6. I doubt that I could. Devotees will have questions. Anyway, maybe when they ask their questions, I'll just turn the camera on. The reason I don't broadcast my courses is because I give devotees exercises, and the exercise may take 15 minutes, and then you're just sitting there looking at me, doing nothing. So it's not really set up to broadcast. But anyway, check in tomorrow night and see what happens. If I'm not on at 6, just hang around and wait for me. Maybe we'll broadcast. Okay? All right, we're going to go. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Thank you for coming. Go Premanandi. Hari Hari Bol. Now I have to turn this off. Wow. There's so many buttons here. I hit so many buttons. Wait.